Welcome to your Veterans Resource Podcast, Return to Roots. This podcast is for service members and their family members regarding retention, transition, and reintegration from active duty to veterans in the community. Hi, I'm your host, Chris Elder, an active duty senior chief in the United States Navy, and my partner in crime / host is Yogi Hernandez, who's an active duty chief in the Navy. Together, we are documenting our experiences as we prepare to transition and reintegrate into the community. Every podcast will have actionable content that will benefit American service members and their families, as well as those who have already transitioned and reintegrated. We got some exciting news. My Transition Timeline 365 is now on the Android and Apple App Store. Go on there, download it, track your transition timeline, find Return to Roots Mill to Vet inside of the app where you can find new updated episodes and get the most up-to-date information on your transition, because your transition and reintegration into the community is priority. Enjoy the app and enjoy this show. This material is intended for a mature audience. If you have little ears within earshot, please make sure that you listen to it before you allow them to listen. We encourage people to utilize Courage to Call 211 if you have any suicidal ideations, or if you just need somebody to talk to. 211 is a great resource. Today we have the honor of talking with Will Vega, who's a 22-year Navy veteran who continued service by creating Sailor Made, who makes custom shadow boxes and custom gifts. Take a look at it, sailormade.com. Enjoy.
Good morning, Returns to Roots. Today, we're going to be talking to Will Vega. He's a retired senior chief. He did 21 years in the Navy, and he got out in 2020. He retired in 2020. Now he owns his own company. It's called Sailor's Made. You have seen his professional artwork around, mostly in shadow boxes that are beautiful, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. A lot of them are mermaids, but they're all custom made to the individual. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Will Vega.
All right, what's going on, everybody? First of all, I want to thank you both for having me on, man. This is something I've been looking forward to now for a few weeks. So really excited to be here today, man. A little bit about myself, man. I joined the Navy back in February '99 and had a really unconventional career. I was an avionics technician. So I had to, my first command, I ended up actually at a place called Fleet Information Warfare Center, which no longer exists, but now it's a NIOC. But I was one of 12 Airedales in a crypto command. And we got to play the bad guys. And during Com2X, JTFX, so like during those like military exercises, I got to fly out in a Learjet and pretend to be the bad guy and fire off these different missile scenarios and jamming radar and doing some really, really cool stuff. And man, we would det to Puerto Rico, and we go to all these like really cool places. And I was like, man, if this is what the Navy's like, sign me up for 4 more, sign me up for 20 more years, you know? And I ended up getting, after I finished those 2 years there, I ended up getting stationed in Puerto Rico. So like, I was stationed at Rosie Roads. I was there at AIMD from 01 to 03. And man, that was probably like one of the best commands. If I could have stood there for the rest of my time, I wouldn't have cared, you know. It was just, everything was like a family there from top down. It didn't really matter what your rank was. Everybody respected the chain of command, and everybody looked out for each other. So you know, after my first enlistment, I was just like, man, if this is what the Navy's like, I'm doing a career. And ended up making it a career, man. I ended up in Point Magoo after that. And I went COP. So for those of you that don't know where Point Magoo is, it's kind of one of the best kept secrets in the Navy. It's a smack between Malibu and Santa Barbara, right along the coast in California, and where the weather's about 80 degrees year round, roughly. It gets a little bit chilly. With chilly, I mean like hoodie weather, maybe for a month or so in the time. But other than that, man, it was an amazing tour of duty there. I did 2 deployments, one on board the USS Carl Vinson, where we did the Around the World cruise in '05, and then came back from that deployment, and about 4 months later got sent on another deployment on board the Abraham Lincoln. That kind of actually fast-tracked my career. I ended up, I got to Point Magoo as a second class, got capped to first out of COPDET there, and then finished my last year there as a CFL, ran with that program, went from the command went from like a 60% pass rate to a 95% pass rate. So I was starting to have this pattern of like, hey, give it to Vega, he'll make it happen. And ended up going recruiting out of New York after that. So that was probably the most rewarding tour of duty I ever had. I left there. Also, I did regular recruiting for about a year there, and it was cool. Wasn't really what I signed up for. I wanted to put people that wanted to be in the Navy, and back then it was, we don't care if they got a pulse and a 50 QT. And that made things a little difficult for me, but I still did it well, and I ended up getting picked up for a it was called the Naval Special Warfare Naval Special Operations Coordinator slot. So my last 2 years, I was responsible for recruiting SEALs, SWIC, EOD divers, search and rescue, which became so freaking rewarding, man. I literally got paid to motivate and work out these young, future sailors, and prepare them for the pipeline for EOD, SWIC, SEAL, search and rescue swimmer, and diver schools. And my guys ended up getting they called them the Union City Monsters, because we worked out of a pool in Union City, New Jersey. That, like, boot camp, when we actually went to like review how our program was doing and went over to boot camp, they're like, oh, you own the Union City Monsters. Like, we became pretty well known at basic training for all the right reasons, which was awesome. Like I said, when I tell you that was the most rewarding tour, I left that tour Sailor of the Year, #1 EP in the command, Naval Special Warfare, Naval Special Operations Coordinator of the nation. Left it with like 2 comms, 2 NAMs. I got to go to Washington, D.C. and go to the White House, and did this whole Recruit of the Year week thing there, where we met everybody from the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff all the way down, SecNav down. And also like just really super rewarding. But I left there and ended up on board the USS Ronald Reagan Ships Company after that. And that was, I checked on board right after the Fukushima reactor meltdown in Japan, after Tomodachi and all that happened. It was kind of stressful to check on board during that time, but I ended up picking up chief as soon as like 3 months after I checked on board. And it was a crazy, if you ever, for those of you that are still in and are watching this, if you haven't reached chief yet, it's one experience to do it when you're on shore duty, where you kind of still get to go home at night. But when you're out in the middle of the ocean with, 400 brothers and sisters with nothing better to do than give you all the attention you want and deserve, it makes things very challenging. I learned how to go and live. I lived on for 6 weeks. I lived on about 3 hours of sleep a night. But everything was just everything built on it, man. It was just so amazing to kind of go through that process, be accepted into the mess and be a chief, and being recognized by my peers to be someone that they could trust to get things done. Literally after we came back from deployment, we went to the yards up in Bremerton, and I got selected to run. Well, it was kind of funny. I ended up having the command master chief of the ship and the master chief of AIMD got into a heated discussion over who I was going to work for. And so they took it down to the mess. All I hear was a bunch of yelling going on in the conference room. They come out and they're like, hey, so we decided you're going to work for both of us. So I ended up getting, that was a compromise. I ended up having to run MWR and the calibration lab while we're in the yards. And I don't know how I did it, but we did, and we made stuff happen. I had a really great team and really great sailors that I felt that knew that I had their back and that I was willing to do whatever it took to get them recognized, because I truly believe like it wasn't about me at that point. It was about getting them to where they needed to be so that they can be that next level leader. I truly believe that anyone that is wanting to move up in rank in the military you can't go to that next step if you haven't trained your replacement. So I truly believe that was something that that was part of my core of who I was. I was going to train my replacement and their replacement, and I was going to show them how to do it. So that having that kind of attitude and taking myself out of it is what made me so successful up to that point, where I just absolutely loved being motivating, guiding, leading, mentoring sailors to get them to that next level. And it's crazy. I've been out, September will be 3 years since I've been out, and I still get sailors that'll call me and thank me for something that I did that sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot about that, you know? And they're like, you have no idea how much this changed my life. And I just want to thank you. You know, they'll ask me for a charge or something. And it's just, that was, you know, being in the Navy was absolutely an amazing time in my life. And I would not change anything about, I had some really rough people that, for the people that praised me, there was just as many people that hated me for one reason or another. And that constantly felt like an uphill battle. But I made sure that the team that I had behind me helped me persevere, and we did it together. So it was just an amazing time in that regard. After I left the Reagan, I ended up wanting to become a command senior chief. Like I thought I was going to be the 30-year guy. I was, up to this point, I had been the poster child for the Navy. You know, they were like, hey, put Vega in front of the camera. Hey, let's put Vega on ESPN. Hey, let's send Vega to Montel Williams. And like, I'm here on all these, you know, TV shows and getting up and being recognized to like just help and represent the Navy. And I took a lot of pride in that. It was just something that I knew, like, wow, my leadership saw something in me that I may have not necessarily saw in myself in that moment, but they trusted me that I would represent not only the command, but the Navy as a whole in the best possible light. So those lessons, those things that happened, I just kept, you know, kept near and dear to my heart, and wanted to make sure that I passed those forward. So in that mentality, I wanted to become a command senior chief. And I knew also that if I kept going at the rate that I was going with just nonstop working, you know, it was either going to be at the detriment of my family or of just my physical well-being. So I went into shore special programs and went and became a command climate specialist, because I figured that would put me closer to the triad, allow me to do a job that would take care of a command as a whole, and allow me to take that route of becoming a command senior chief. And it was an extremely rewarding, in the sense of like, I got to help a lot of sailors, but not so rewarding when it came to getting to become a master chief. It was just one of those things where for a really long time, I don't think the Navy really appreciated, probably still doesn't to this day, from what I hear for the sailors that are still in the program that I speak to. But it is an amazing job, because you get to really put your finger to the pulse of what's going on within your commands. And it was something that I truly believed in. And I was kind of a victim of my own success again, because I ended up having to do this resiliency summit. And I with that came training that I had to do. So did that training, did that resiliency summit. And then I go to they have an annual command climate specialist summit at Patrick Air Force Base here in Florida. And there's this captain who pops up, his name's Captain Neferetti. And he's talking about this change agent program that he wants to spread throughout all of PAC fleet. So I ask a quick question, and he stops and dead in his tracks and is like, "You're the command climate specialist from Naval Base Ventura County, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Hey, I was sitting in one of your trainings at the resiliency summit. I was in civilian clothes, so you didn't know who I was. But," he said, "your training was the best training I've ever had in my time in the Navy." And I was like, wow, that's thank you. Yeah, I was just kind of like lost for words. And he's like, "I want to offer you a job right now." He's like, "I will literally finish this and call Admiral," it was Admiral Swift at the time. He's like, I'll call Admiral Swift and create a billet so you can come with me and travel all through Pacific Fleet and become, and we can teach this change agent program together." I was like, "I appreciate that, but I need to go back out to sea. I'm on shore duty. If I do another shore duty, it's probably not going to be in my best, you know, to end up becoming a command senior chief, which was what I wanted to do." But I said, "Let me think about it, sir," and I appreciate it. After the training's over, civilian that runs the 21st Century Sailor Office is like, "Hey, senior, come have a seat." He said, "Hey, I heard everything that Captain Neferetti said about you, and I think we need someone like you here at Diomi." It's like, "Well, maybe you didn't hear what I just told Captain Neferetti. I don't want to do back-to-back shore duty, because it's gonna impact my ability to become a command senior chief." And I said, "If I'm here, I'm completely detached from the Navy. I wouldn't be able to do what I really want to do." He's like, "I think that's great, but last time I checked, you belong to me. I own the 21st Century Sailor program. You're committed to 6 years for this program, and we need you here at Diomi." And I was like, I appreciate that, sir, but I think I would rather be on a carrier. So I left it at that. Fast forward, time for me to get orders. Call the detailer. I'm like, hey, brother, what do you got for me? He's like, I ain't got nothing for you. You're going to DL me, bro. And I said, what? And next thing I knew, this was all during sequestration, all this craziness going on. I get cut orders 5 weeks before I'm supposed to transfer, find a house, everything, end up out here in Florida and finishing up my last. I don't really want to get too into what my last tour was like, other than I will tell you that it wasn't necessarily the highlight of my career. Only because there was a lot of things that were going on at the command that shouldn't have been going on. And me being the chief that I am, did not allow that to continue to go on at the detriment to my career. But I truly believe, man, that everything happens for a reason. I really do. So tell you all that to tell you this, right? In the middle of all the craziness, right before I transfer to Florida, I head over to retirement for my mentor, for the CMC that fought over me, right? For to have me go run MWR. And he, I wanted to do something awesome for him. So I reached out to every sailor that I knew that had served with him on Facebook. And I created this group and I asked them to send me a collar device off of their uniform. So then I ended up reaching a bunch of sailors. I ended up getting over about 300 collar devices. I went to Michael's and I bought a shadow box. Then I reached out to a business that he's not really doing this kind of stuff anymore, but he does something similar to what I currently do now. Named Keith Durr of K&W Projects, and reached out to him and purchased a 3D Master Chief anchor. Purchased this rectangular shadow box, had a history of assignments made on a plate. And the night before his retirement, I'm in the Navy Lodge, cutting off all of these pins and putting it inside the shadow box. About close to 300 collar devices inside our shadow box around his anchor with his history of assignments. And I presented to him at a ceremony. And I say, hey, brother, if there's ever a moment, if you ever wonder or think and ask yourself if you made a difference, all you need to do is look at the box that I'm presenting you today. Each one of these collar devices represents a sailor's life you touched. Said each one of these came off a sailor's uniform. I said, know that you made a difference. And now it's our turn to stand to watch. So I presented that to him. And at the end of his ceremony, everybody's like, wow, that was probably the most thoughtful gift they'd ever seen at the ceremony before. It's just like, how'd you come up with that idea? I'd pay big bucks for ideas like that. So light bulb flickering, top of my head. And I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool, and so that same weekend, I go up to one of my best friend's house, and he lived up in Whidbey at the time. And we're talking. So I left Bremerton, jumped on the ferry, went up to Whidbey. And we're there. He just got back off of his deployment, and we're sitting in his house talking about what's life going to be like for both of us after the Navy. And we started throwing. I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we had our own business? Like especially after working, being told what to wear, where to be, what time, how your hair is supposed to look, how to speak, just being your own boss. I said, wouldn't that be an amazing idea, just to like be our own boss and control our own schedule and just kind of be the masters of our own universe for a little while. And so we start talking about all these business ideas, and we're talking about food trucks and restaurants, and then all of a sudden the conversation of coins come up. So this mind you, this is 2016, and I'm like, man, the coins are really popular right now, military challenge coins, but nobody's making really nice displays for them. So that'd be a really cool business. Why don't we build some like really cool custom coin displays? And he's like, well, I got a wood shop in my garage. Let's see what we could build this weekend. And no kidding, in that one weekend, we built 6 coin holders, 3 in the shape of an aircraft carrier, 3 in the shape of a P3 propeller. And the very next week, or back to work, I'm walking down the hallway. I kept 2 of the carriers and 1 of the P3 propellers, and he kept 2 of the P3 propellers and 1 of the carriers. Walking down the hallway towards my office with 1 of the carriers in my hand, getting ready to put it in my office, get stopped by one of the civilians. He's like, hey, senior, what's that? What you got there in your hand? I go, well, this is an aircraft carrier coin holder. And he's like, where did you get that? I have been scouring the internet for something like this for so freaking. He's like, I was an E2 pilot. I flew on carriers. That's what I did my entire time. And I have all these coins from all the carriers that I've landed on, but I wanted to put my coins on an aircraft carrier. He's like, how can I get one? he's like, where did you get it? And I said, well, I made it. He's like, you made that? And I'm like, yeah, I made it this last weekend. Can I buy it off you? Was the first thing comes out, this mouth after that. And I'm like, sure, no problem. I said, I still have another one. I'll sell this one to you. And he's like, how much do you want? And mind you, it's made out of pine. We spray painted it. It was cool looking, but it wasn't to the level of the stuff that we do now.
Right.
Stuff that we do now. But I'm like, you know what? I'm a man of my word. $60, just give me $60 and we're good. And he went, biggest smile on his face. And now I'm like, wow, he's like, I would pay you so much more than 60, and I'm like, I know, we're good. You're good. So left it at that, threw some good karma out into the world. And I was like, cool. Very next day, hey, so I saw that coin holder you built for Mr. G. Can you build me one in the shape of Mickey Mouse? I was like, I don't see why not. Next, I go to Home Depot, get a table saw and a skill saw and some sandpaper and some paint. And I built this Mickey Mouse coin holder. Very next day after that, hey, I saw that Mickey Mouse. Can you build me a California? I don't see why not. Do the California. Then the California turned into Washington State. Washington State turned into something else. Then it came Texas. Then I had a brother who was like, yo, I want a Texas coin holder, but everything's bigger in Texas. So it needs to be 2 foot by 2 foot. It needs to be this thing. And we want the flag painted on it. And I'm like, oh, man, here we go. So I was like, all right, well, let's build you in Texas, brother. So I ended up building in Texas, and it came out pretty cool. And I'm like, man, I wonder what other people would think of this. And I posted on my personal Facebook page, and I was just like, just built these for a couple brothers. What do you guys think? Next thing I know, bing, 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 bing. Next thing I know, I'm in the Texas coin holder building business, man. And I think everybody that ever lived, served, or even was near Texas ordered one of these things at the time. And I'm like, and the big thing for me was I was happy doing it. And I knew that if this was going to be something that was going to grow and be something that was scalable, that in my mind, I knew I couldn't be greedy. So I didn't want to take the money that was being given to me for these projects that people were purchasing and then going and doing something dumb with it. So like literally every sale that I made, I bought another piece of equipment to make my shop bigger. And next thing I knew, I was converting my garage into a full-blown wood shop. And I'm just all of a sudden in the coin holder business. My wife's like, what the hell's going on? Why can't I park my car in the garage anymore? I'm like, well, baby, I got a new hobby. I got a new side hustle. This is where we're at right now. And it took a little convincing, but she eventually came on board and she started helping me with painting and stuff. And, it just really started to pick up. And about 2017 summertime, I ended up transferring out here. And by this point, we've built, a few hundred coin holders. And I just wanted to start expanding like what else I was doing. And I just, like I said, was constantly reinvesting. And I finally saved up enough money to purchase my first CNC machine. And that was a game changer after that. Purchased that CNC machine and started just doing 3D stuff, and kind of similar to the anchor that I had purchased for that shadow box that I did for my mentor. And which, by the way, his name's Dave Lynch. Amazing guy. If he ever listens to this, I love you, brother. I would not be here right now if it wasn't for you. I will tell you that that just those things just kept going over and over, and it's just like next thing I know, I get asked to build a shadow box for the guy who's now my business partner. He said he wanted to build one for his wife, and just before that, we did one for a 81 who was part of the Blue Angels, got medically separated, but was adamant about his time in the Navy and loved his service. And I still remember his name, 81 Rivera. He's like, I really want an F-18 shadow box. I have this built in my hallway, and I want it to be the first thing you see when you come into my house, but I want it to look like it's taken off vertically in this thing. So I'm figuring out how to do this. I draw this out in 3D, and I build an F-18 shadow box for this guy. And that got seen, and the next thing I know, I'm all of a sudden building shadow boxes. And so I get asked by the guy who's my business partner now to build an officer crest one for his wife. And we ended up doing one, and it came out freaking amazing. And that turned into building a full 3D aircraft carrier coffee table for Force Master Chief Lloyd Owen. And that was like our first kind of quote unquote little viral thing. For me, it was a big deal. We got like 30,000 views, and I was just like, wow, this is, I can't believe like this is cool. You know, people are really taking to this. And I just kept doing it. We just kept it going. We're in a house now here in Florida, and the business was slowly taking over the house. Like I had a photo room on the second floor, had my office, had the entire garage, part of the kitchen. My wife was consistently upset because, man, I mean, I would just sawdust in and out of the house, coming in and out of the garage. It got to a point where like I was learning how to just, I felt like I was going through the season again. I was there, like I would go and put the machine on and check to see how long it would be and snap while the machine was running, so I could just at least have sleep, because I was working full time still on active duty as an instructor at Diomi, and then doing this full time at night. And but hard work absolutely pays off, because this business where it is now is just it's a dream, man. Like I think about like, man, I get to wake up and do this every day now is just absolutely freaking amazing. So we, you know, fast forward to 2019, been in the garage for about 2 years at that time. And the guy who's my business partner now, after I did the shadow box for his wife, we had talked. He was living in California, and his wife's a retired Navy nurse. She was getting ready to retire at that time. And their tax consultant told them, like, if they stay a day past her retirement, they were going to be on the hook for 33 grand on their being taxed for both their retirements. So they literally they got in their RV, hit me up, and was like, hey, we're thinking about moving to Florida. They had tried out a few other places they were thinking about, but then they hit me up, and I was like, brother, he had a similar woodworking business, was doing paddles and things like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving to Florida. I was like, well, if you move to Florida, come to where I live, come to this area, we'll partner up, and we'll take the Sailor Made name and blow it up into something that's never been seen before. And you know, he believed in what I said, and he took me up on my offer, ended up becoming 50-50 partners, and he moved out here. We eventually, so once what that came us moving out of the garage into our first location, which was a 1,350 square foot shop at an industrial park. And we just went to it, man. I was working during the day. He was there all day, and I would come in the afternoon as soon as I got off of work and work till 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Like we had a futon and a hammock in there so that we could power nap in between getting jobs out the door. And within the first year of being in that shop, we were busting at the seams. Like we were stepping on top of wood to try and get over and get around equipment. It was just becoming too much for him and I to be in that space, and we needed a bigger space. So we're like, hey, we gotta move to another space. And so this is 2020 now, mind you. So what's happening in the beginning of 2020? COVID.
The pandemic. Yeah.
Good old COVID-19. And while that it was such a scary time for I'm sure for a lot of people in the world. From my standpoint, it was scary because we had just signed paperwork on moving into a 2,700 square foot shop, and it's just me and him. I'm still on active duty, and everybody else in the world is shutting their doors, and everybody else they're losing their businesses. And here we are taking this just bold leap in faith and trusting in God, you know, that's gonna take us to this next level. And man, it paid off. We moved into this 2,700 square foot warehouse, and it just that around that time was when we released. We had just finished releasing our first Mermaid as well. So what ended up being a byproduct of, you know, a negative thing being the pandemic was us flourishing, because now people could no longer have ceremonies, but I saved all this money for these ceremonies. And now they're like, well, I have all this money that I put aside. I might as well get myself a really badass shadow box. Well, who's making badass shadow boxes? And they find us. And then next thing I know, we're just trying to one up ourselves each and every time. And that's really what kind of took us over that hump. We were in that 2,700 square foot shop for 2 years, and that was crazy in itself. Like, we started hiring our employees, and we went from 2 of us to we were at like 5 or 6 by the time we were reaching the end of our time there. And then in July of 22, we ended up moving to now what we're the current place that we're at now, which is a 4,700 square foot shop with
Holy
12.
smokes!
Yeah, there's 12 of us working here, working Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's someone here in the building, and we're shipping shadow boxes all over the world and taking care of people from all the branches of the service. Although our name is Sailor Made, we take care of everybody with the mission of just honoring those who serve, regardless of rank, regardless of branch. We want to be able to honor someone's service, whether it even be the country or the community. We honor firefighters, we honor police officers, nurses, EMT. We find a way to just honor and commemorate their service and their selflessness, and we get to do it in the form of art. And it's like I said, man, it's a dream that I'd never thought. I grew up dirt poor kid from the Lower East Side of New York City, and now here I am, owner of a company that employs and provides a quality of life for 12 people, and I get to ship my product all over the world to people that are doing things that only a small percentage of the world can do. So I know I spoke for a really long time, but that's my story.
That is absolutely amazing. Like, we didn't stop you because it was absolutely fantastic, and you were just all at it.
I really it's such, you do have a really good story, man, and I'm really glad that you were able to come on here and talk about this. And one thing I really want to capture is everyone that's listening, the feeling behind why he does what he does. Making gifts for somebody, making cherished items that represent someone's service to country, service to brother, service to sister, service to one another is a very honored job to have. And you do that. You make things that are probably going to be cherished through generations. And the stuff that you're doing is really amazing. And it really speaks to, Yogi and I, we're both avid woodworkers. We understand the whole entire, when you said 300 different rank insignias and put into a shadow box, I was like, wow, you hit me right there in the blood pump. You know what I'm saying? So what you do is awesome. And I'm so glad you shared that. One thing I kind of want to rewind back on for some people that were listening, our non-Navy folk, when he was over in Point Magoo, he was a CFL, which is your command fitness leader. I kind of want to break down some of the acronyms. So he was a fitness leader, and then he went he did really well at that, and that got him into the special warfare recruiting side when he was doing a recruiter, right?
Yeah.
And then bro, you 21 years, you went from some really badass tours to even some better tours. Ships company, Japan. I'm not sure if you noticed, we got the Japan swag on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got three Japanese sailors here. We understand some of the heartaches that you have whenever you're over there, and being there during the 2011 Fukushima incident must have been pretty intense. What time frame did you were you there for?
So I got there in March of 2011. So but I went right on board the Reagan. So that I was, I say this, fortunate enough because I didn't have to, when I was supposed to fly out, because when I left recruiting, they sent me to a sea school to be a AT FLIR. So what that is the infrared cameras that go on board the F-18s. If you've ever seen a video of like a missile strike, that's that gray and white video that shows like a missile hitting its target. I worked on those cameras. So they sent me to school to run the shop that was going to be in charge of fixing those cameras on board the ship. And when that school finished, I was supposed to fly out immediately and meet the ship. But when the earthquake and everything happened, when the Fukushima reactor meltdown happened, it put a hold on me flying out. So once the ship had went through all the necessary things to make it safe for someone to fly back on, is when they flew us back out there. So I flew out in March of 11, and I got the tail end of all the stuff for Fukushima and just dealing with some of the radiation stuff and things like that, but nothing too crazy to at least on my end. I know there was a few sailors that didn't fare so well from that whole ordeal, but it's still, like I said, we made the best of that deployment and did our best to keep morale up and take care of the people that were there, which was like our top priority.
Something I want to expand on. So Tomodachi means friendship or friend, right? Operation Tomodachi means Operation Friendship. And the Japanese are very open to us, and they have their hearts open to us. And then when this happened, this natural disaster that was massive for their lives, that even now, the area where Fukushima happened, it's still inhabitable. They really relied on us. And that operation was super, super intense. There were a lot of people that were in days without sleeping, without eating, and all we were doing in the military were picking up people from the island, bringing them onto the carrier, and then from there taking them somewhere else to be safe, right? Everyone else that it was civilian in Japan when that happened got evacuated to the States, right? And that's why you were on hold. And I'm just saying this to explain to all our listeners that we're not even a part of any of that. Especially my sister. My sister, she's like, you need to explain to me what any of this means because I have no idea. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose interest, right? But those things are massive, and unless you're involved with that, you have no idea how much of it really takes into it. And coming at the tail end of that massive chaos, right? Because surviving during that chaos, there's always the adrenaline drops down from any operation, and then you see a massive relax from everyone. And to me, my perspective, surviving the chaos is not the problem. The aftermath of that is a huge problem when it comes to mental health, emotional health, health in general, and then just maintaining the camaraderie of a unit. It's just so difficult because then you also have the turnover, and then you have new people coming in. They're like, oh, well, you had no idea how difficult it really is. It was, how much work I have really done, but you don't appreciate me. So you have that mentality, all those emotions going on, but you coming into something like that, it is a very challenging effect.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing, man. Like, seriously. Yeah. I know Chris was talking about that, and I just wanted to expand on the Operation Tomodachi. I was not there. I was here in the States. I had just left Japan when that happened the first time, and everything I heard about it was just chaotic. So congratulations, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah. But I did want to, if you guys are game, since I'm on my phone here, I can show you guys the shop. All right, let's
do it. Field trip.
So yeah, this is the location that we're in now, which is 4,700 square feet. So we call this the clean side. And let me flip the old camera around if it'll let me do so. Yep, there we go. Boom. So here we run 4 laser engravers on this side. This one's a 36-inch by 55-inch, 2 24-inch by 36-inch. They're Boss lasers, and then an epilogue back there in the corner. But here this is our paint department here. This is my desk here, as you can see. And I'm still, remember I told you this was the very first coin holder I built. This is that P3 propeller right here. And then right behind it is the aircraft carrier. Nice. Yeah, so I'll keep those there forever. I'll never get rid of them, never sell them. Just that'll always be my reminder of where it all started. So yeah, we do sublimation. I do all my 3D design here. We have 3 painters on staff here that will paint some really cool stuff. This is the beginning of a Winnie the Pooh shadow box here. for Air Force Master Sergeant. And then we got a Coast Guard one right now, King Neptune over here. So it's got the California State here, Coast Guard Master Chief Anchor. That'll have the American flag in the center there. And then once it's all painted, the cover is all done. You'll get to see really a lot of the detail once it's all put together. And this is our assembly area. This is where we'll put shadow boxes together. This one's for a prior Army retired commander who really kept everything he ever owned and wanted to put it in a shadow box. But we keep all of our shadow boxes that are in process on these shelves here. This, I can show you a couple of them that we're working on right now. This one is I don't know if you've ever heard of the 90s hip hop group, the Diplomats, or Dipset, but they wanted their shadow box to look like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got a Jets logo up on the top. They're a Jets fan, true New Yorker, and got their rating, their anchor there. Here's another one. This is a Wonder Woman one.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah, with the sword. And
Yeah, those are really sick, man. Really sick.
You. And then I'll show you one more. Because can't have a sailor without Popeye, right?
Yeah.
There he is.
Gorgeous, man.
Yeah. Popeye with the officer's crest. Mustang.
Nice.
Yeah, so these are waiting for like assembly now. They're gonna go into final assembly, laser engraving, and then they'll get shipped out. Everything gets all in here. This is one of our CNC machines that'll actually we cut. If you see there's foam up there, we actually cut the shape of the shadow box out of that foam and then placed it in a custom box that we built for it, and then build another custom cardboard box around that. And the cardboard that we use is military grade, so it protects the packages because we ship them all over the world. And as you can see, it's our drying area where we spray everything and let it all dry out. Got a couple of Master Chief anchors going right now. This is a desk plate. It's going to be going on his desk there. We do wine barrels. But this is all just one side. Let me show you the other side. So
we're going to the dirty side, right?
Yeah, this is the dirty side, aka the hangar bay. We call this the hangar bay. So everything you see comes in as a raw piece of wood. See our pile here comes in as a raw piece of wood, and it'll leave as the finished product that you just saw on the other side there. So what we'll do is we'll cut the wood down to the specified sizes that we need, and then we'll glue them together to create a blank. Once the blank is dry, it goes over to our CNC machines. So this is our main CNC area, where we have 3 large bed CNC machines. These 2 right here are 4 foot by 8 foot.
Jeez.
And then 4 foot by 4 foot. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek at someone's shadow box. So I don't know if you can kind of see it there or not, but
King Kong.
I'll show you what it's going to look like.
That's King Kong. Oh man, that's badass.
No.
I can't say who that's for because they don't know they're getting it. So
don't say any names. Don't say any names, man, because this is getting released this month.
So, and then we have 2 smaller bed CNCs as well. So we run a total of 5 on this side. And then once it's done on one of the machines, it comes over to our sanding area where they'll prep it, sand it, get it all nice and cleaned out. As you can see, like it's a Tinkerbell wall plaque here that we're working on.
Love it.
That's for a Air Force Master Sergeant who's retiring and wants to give this to his wife. They're going to mark all the places they were stationed at together on that map.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then after it's done here, it goes over back to the clean side. And then on the other side of the wall, we have our front office where my wife works. And then we have a break room over there for the team. So, yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, to think that it all started in my garage and now I'm responsible for this every day. It's like I said, man, it's a blessing. I'm truly grateful, and we wouldn't be able to get to do this every day if it wasn't for, the people that buy our products and trust us to create something just really cool and awesome for them. And then I'll just show you one more thing. So I'll tell you how I was doing SEAL and SWIC recruiting. So this
Yeah.
guy right here, his name's Frank Margata. He's like a brother to me now. First day I met him, he came to test to become a Navy SEAL. And I mean, as you can see, he made it because he's got his trident on. But
Right.
the first time he came, he drank more of the pool than he did swimming it. And but he never gave up. He absolutely never gave up. And I saw something in him that I knew that just it needed to be molded and pushed. And I'm grateful I did, because he just got out not too long ago, but had an amazing career as a Navy SEAL and did some things for our country, man, that I'm extremely proud of. So it's just the big thing, like I said, even just the heart behind what we do is just to honor those who serve. So anytime we get an opportunity to honor someone and just provide them something that'll last, like you said, for generations, is just it's just amazing thing that I'm like, man, I still can't believe that this is my life, you know. So what else you
So
guys got?
that period when you got out and you were trying to figure out what you were going to do, you really didn't run into that period because you had already started your next venture before you even got out. Is that correct?
Correct. So that would be, if I were to give any advice, I would say, like, if there's something that you're passionate about, especially if you're thinking about starting your own business, why wait till you get out? Start now. You know, start now. There's nothing that's stopping you but you. I was fortunate enough to have a wife that was very understanding and knew that I believed in what we were doing, and gave me the left and right parameters to function on very little sleep for a really long time. But I believed in what I was trying to build here, and I still do. As you can see, we haven't stopped. We're still growing, and just being able to really focus on that, and kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, was not being greedy. For the longest time, I didn't actually start. I started the business in 2016. It became a legal business in 2017. I didn't take my first paycheck from the business until I retired in 2020. And even then, I only paid myself $1,000 on the 1st and the 15th, and invested the rest in either getting new equipment or hiring another employee and providing them with a good salary. I was, so when you asked me earlier about making sure, that part of the transition that I did worry about was making sure that I had all my ducks in a row. I had some ailments that I was able to claim, and became 100% permanently and totally service connected disabled. So with that, plus my retirement, it made it even easier for me to make that transition, because I knew I could continue to do something awesome. And as long as I wasn't being greedy and trying to do something with the money other than reinvest back into the business, it allowed the business to grow and flourish. So if anybody's out there that's trying to start their own business, set yourself up, make sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to do. Take advantage of the VA disability claim. You're out, most people are not the same that they were when they joined when they're 18. They have some sort of ailment or some sort of some issue it's not gonna get better. It's gonna get worse as you get older. But the problem is, the way the system's designed is that it doesn't allow you to, if you don't claim it when you get out, it doesn't really allow you to connect that service. It becomes extremely difficult to connect that ailment to your service when you try to do it 10, 20 years down the road. So putting everything that ever hurt, aches, or impacts your quality of life in some way or form, even if they tell you that, yes, it's service connected, but it's a 0% rating, a 0% rating is still a rating. It's still something that you can go back later and then have them raise as the ailment gets worse. So that was something that was really crucial for me to understand and know when I started the VA process, because it's something that I do now, and I pay forward to other people transitioning, is just kind of walking them through that system. Because as we know, if you've been through TAPS class yet, TAPS is what it is. It's not necessarily going to prepare you for your VA disability stuff. It's not going to necessarily get you a job when you get out. It's going to prepare you for what to expect when you get out. but it doesn't fully prepare you. At least the TAPS class that I went through, I'll speak for self. But there are organizations out there that will help you. One of that helped me with my VA disability claim was a Veteran Service Office. You have people there that are dedicated, that are willing to help you process your VA disability claim for free of charge. They're there to help. And that was an amazing tool that I used to help me with my VA process. I went in and, so what I did was I actually did a lot of the heavy lifting for them to make it easier for them to process my stuff and dig deeper into my medical record to find the stuff that I'm not necessarily trained to find. So if anybody's out there and wondering like, oh, well, anything that you've ever had in your diagnosis history, making sure that you put that on your 2808 and getting that checked. So when you do your compensation and pension exams, will go a long way.
So it's funny that you mentioned that. It's really funny that you mentioned that, because both Chris and I are going through that portion of it, right? And the reason why this podcast was even founded in the first place was because of that, right? Because we went through both TAP class and we started talking about that. And it was just, wow. It almost, for lack of better words, we're like, what is the point of this, right? And as Chris loves to say it, you know, I'll let him say it about his fire truck thing here in a minute, right?
Yeah.
But we started this because he's like, dude, you're not getting anything out of this. You can't. You're just overwhelmed. You can't get any of it. So we appreciate you going into this depth and talking about this, because that's what this podcast is all about. Like, seriously, you had an absolute fantastic transition. And you did what everybody preaches about. Start way before you're about to get out.
Absolutely.
Right? But nobody does that. Why? Because you're so focused. You have your blinders of just trying to stay in.
Honestly, it's not even that. It's the way that we're trained as chiefs, right? We're trained, take care of yourself tomorrow. You got a mission that you need to take care of. You got your sailors that you need to take care of. Tomorrow you can take care of you. But the problem is tomorrow never comes. Or when tomorrow comes, you're already in your 90-day window and you're getting ready to transition out. And then it's like, oh, here, you can have your week or two to take care of what you need to take care of. Thank you for your service. Have a nice day. And then someone says, doing your job, right? And that's the reality of it. That truly is the reality of it. And the problem is we get so wrapped up in sucking it up and saying, okay, I'll take care of myself tomorrow. Okay, take it. Next thing you know, we're out and trying to figure it all out by ourselves.
You know, brother, you're absolutely right. I'm going to have to say, first off, I'm really blessed in some ways. Yeah, I've had to transition from Japan with my family after only being in Japan for a year and a half, all the way back over to San Diego. But I had a chief's mess there that was very supportive of me in my process, because I had to go limdo, not because I wanted to, but because medical was like, no, you can't be here.
Right.
And you should have never been able to come here to Japan, but that's a whole entire different story. And if anybody wants to hear about it, call me up. I will tell you all about it, because sharing is part of the battle and how you prevent stuff from happening to you. And then we came here, and I had to move my family all the way up to Washington State. And I came down here, and the mess down here was very supportive of me as well. I'm very lucky, but not everybody gets that ability to do that. So what you're saying is it happens to a lot of people where they only focus on their sailors and the mission, and then all of a sudden they're in a time frame where they can't do that anymore, because, well, you gotta get out. You know, you gotta get out. You gotta take care of your stuff. You have if you're waiting till the 90-day mark to start taking care of your stuff, you're already way behind the power curve. You can't even submit your VA claim now until you're out, if that's when you're starting. And there's a lot of other stuff that you need to have already started prior to that. So it's like, if you don't go to TAPS class 24 to 18 months before you get out, You're not going to know about a lot of these processes and information. And then Yogi talks about the proverbial fire truck that I like to talk about, but I'm going to tell you about another one. And it is my ship, right? My ship. Imagine your life as a ship, right? You have all these things that happen to you. What are we told whenever something happens to us? Compartmentalize. Tell me I'm wrong. Compartmentalize the things that happen to you. I stubbed my toe. Okay, I compartmentalize the pain. I keep moving forward. Tamagotchi, you know, if you had to deal with any of the body retrieval, you compartmentalize that and you shoved it down a hole. Detainee operations. If you had to do any kind of detainee operations, you had to take some of that and shovel it and put it into a box and then put it down in a hole. Well, if you ever do any kind of combat ops, you had to take that, compartmentalize it, shove it down in a hole. You get injured on the job, you take that, you compartmentalize it and shove it in a hole. Well, your hold on your ship can only hold so much. And if those items, think of it as liquid, what keeps the ship afloat? The fact that it's buoyant, the fact that it doesn't have a compartment filled up with liquid. But if you fill it up with liquid, eventually when a wave hits you, what happens? Exactly. You capsize. You capsize and you sink. So if you don't take time to start decompartmentalizing things, and that means actually taking and analyzing all your health stuff and getting help and make sure that you're getting prepared, preparing your family, taking all these steps, which takes time, takes your focus. I'm sorry, but you have to start doing this before you get out, or else you're going to be in a really bad situation where a wave hits your ship and you sink. So you got to take care of this stuff. So not to make fun of Yogi about my fire truck story that I like to say, but there's my ship story for everyone.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you that process. One of those things that I was kind of was, I guess, fortunate in a sense. So unfortunate and fortunate at the same time. I wasn't able to process my claim within that 6-month window, mostly because of COVID. My 6-month window happened in March of 2020. Guess what also happened in March of 2020? The world shut down, to include the hospital here on base. They didn't, if you did not have COVID or weren't getting tested for COVID, they did not want to see you. By the time they were doing appointments for anything outside of that, was well within my 90-day window. And I ended up having to file my claim after I got out. But like I said, I used that veteran service office. I had another brother, Terry Spain, retired MC chief, came over to my shop and sat down with me and showed me how to go through my record, showed me what I needed to put on my 2808. And all he asked was that I pay it forward. So, brother, I'll tell you, I do consultations on Tuesdays and Thursdays for shadow boxes, and it'll always, 90% of the time, it'll turn into me doing like a VA, VA consultation on top of that for the shadow box, just to kind of prepare people, because there's so much that TAPS class leaves out. You know, they don't really prepare you for that portion of it, which is, I mean, realistically, it's kind of life changing if everything goes in your favor and you end up 100% permanently, totally. I'm 100% with a wife and 2 kids. You know, with the boost that it just got right now, that's $4,200 a month for waking up and making sure, you know, as long as I can stay healthy enough to stay alive. So the first of every month, my family has a roof over their head, food in their mouths, regardless of how well the business is doing or not, you know? And it's a resource that a lot of people don't take advantage of because of that pride, because of that, the way that we're taught to be like, well, it hurts, but it's not that bad. I can compartmentalize it. I'll deal with it later when later comes. But unfortunately, later's 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and now you can barely get out of bed in the morning. When you could have took the time and took care of yourself when you first got out and at least got it documented. And if they gave you a 0% rating on, that's easier to get a rating increase on versus not ever having it documented and now trying to prove that it happened while you're on active duty and you're suffering the long-term effects of said ailment. So just doing those things that absolutely have to happen. When you get to this point in your time when it's ready for transition, like you have to be, this is the part where it goes against everything that we've been trained, and you have to be a little bit selfish in the sense of now it's your time tomorrow's today. You know what I mean? Like, tomorrow is today. You need to start taking care of your stuff. If you're in that 6-month window, you should be focused on making sure that the future for not just yourself, but your family is going to be okay. Because one of the harsh realities that I faced that was really hard for me was that the day after the uniform came off, a lot of the calls stopped. I still get calls from sailors that thank me for all the mentoring and guidance, but the constant calls and the, hey, we need you for this, we need that all stops. It all goes away because someone else has stepped into your place and they're now doing your job, and the mission still has to move forward, you know. And as much as the people that you serve with want to spend that time with you and have a beer with you and catch up and have food, if they're still on active duty, they still have a mission that has to move forward, and you're back on shore taking care of what now is going to be your life. And how do you prepare yourself for that? You know, which I think this is why this podcast is such a great tool that is going to be available to people to be able to just listen and hear stories about how can I make my transition as smooth as possible so that I can provide myself with the best possible quality of life after I get out. And I'm going to give you a little secret. We, as especially chiefs in the Navy, shout out to all the other branches of service.
We're not biased. We're not biased at all.
I only say this from experience. Okay, I had the I'll say pleasure of being at a DoD command at my last command, and I will tell you, as far as leadership goes and the style of leadership that a Navy chief has, the only branch that's kind of close to ours is the Air Force, and it's just. And they don't go through a similar transition period the way that we do. The Coast Guard is in a close third. You know, they do have a chief's process, and you know they are frontline leaders, but it's not the same as how we lead. And you know, one of the things that I always tell people is, like, in the Navy, officers run the Navy, but chiefs make the Navy run. And I say all that to say this: we are equipped with a certain set of skills that most people in this world now, especially in the civilian sector, do not possess. We have the ability to multitask and do jobs and do a plethora of things all at once and still make the overall mission or whatever our goal is move forward. Where there are people that can't even make it to work on time and do the basic functions of life. So that makes us as potential employees for a company that we're trying to become a part of extremely valuable. So if you're out there doubting, like, oh, is there going to be, I will tell you right now, there are so many jobs out there that are just waiting for someone with our set of skills to be able to step into that role and handle, whether it be a leadership role or even just a working role. I have so many success stories of brothers and sisters that have stepped into these companies like Johnson & Johnson or Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman, and are exceedingly doing well and getting paid abundantly well for the doing almost the same exact job that they were doing in the Navy. But guess what? They're not standing watch. They're not being told that they have to leave their family for months at a time. There's a lot of honor in what we do in the Navy, but when our time comes and it comes to an end, we've earned that moment to be able to be that bit selfish, take care of ourselves, and secure the rest of our future. Because I know for a fact, when I retired, I was just short of 40 years old, and I knew I wasn't ready to just, I was financially in a place where I could kick back and stay at home and be but mentally and physically, that's just not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be able to still do something and provide something and give I still feel like I have so much to give to the world, you know? And I think I speak for a lot of people where there aren't many people that are ready to just go sit in their hammock or sit on their front porch at 38, 39, 40 years old for that average person retiring. They're going to want to do something else. And whatever that is, it behooves us to utilize the skills that we've learned from our time in the military and apply those to something that's going to allow us to be successful in the civilian world. Because I promise you, there are a lot of employers out there. I speak to a lot of people on a daily basis that are looking for some people with our sets of skills to come work. I've been offered jobs, even though I own a business. People have offered me jobs. Like, I'll pay you whatever you want. Like, come work for our company. And I'm good. I love where I'm at right now. I love what I get to do. So I think that's kind of, I know I talk a lot, man, but I'm just so passionate about what we get to do, man. And and just being able to pay it forward is really important to me.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. So I'm glad you're here so that, we balance everything out, and then Chris just, has to deal with us.
You guys aren't too bad to deal with. So before we go into the final round, any save rounds or alibis? Cool. Oh, go ahead, man. What's that?
I do got to say, Ron, I'm going to do a shameless plug. Follow us on Facebook or on Instagram at SailorMade CWW. So SailorMade CharlieWhiskeyWhiskey.com. Shameless plug, but yeah, come check us out if you ever want to see.
What does the CWW stand for?
Custom Woodworks.
Sweet. Well, you also get to share that one more time, because in the final round, we're going to ask that as our last question too.
Oh. Yeah, sorry. A little too
so you get two shameless plugs. I like two for the price of one. All right. So the first one, man, what book or podcast do you recommend people to read?
So, Dave Ramsey. If you've never got a chance to check out Financial Peace University, it is one of the things that I think was life-changing for me when it came to me handling my finances and being just smarter with my money. It was something that was gifted to me. I was something that I was very skeptical about when I took the class, but when I actually sat down and started taking the classes and implementing some of the practices, it was completely life-changing for me. I was one of. Go ahead.
I agree with you. Anything that's like financial, like, hey, skeptical, but Financial Peace University is probably a great resource to read. And if you don't have a basic understanding of money, FPCU is what I usually recommend to people whenever they need trauma work instantly on their finances.
Yeah. There's the baby step system. It makes it extremely easy to understand where your money's going, what you're doing with your money, and it teaches you to live like no one else so that you can live and give like no one else. And I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I'll just put that out there, but it was just something that was extra. I was one of those guys that lived paycheck to paycheck, didn't have anything in my savings account, and just was I was extremely reckless. I always had to have the newest this and that, and TVs and cars and rims, and I did all well into my 30s. I was that guy. Just one bad financial decision after the other, and it wasn't until I started becoming a business owner and really wanted to be serious about how my life was going to be after my time in the Navy that I had to take control. And I was fortunate enough that I was gifted that class. And I followed the steps, and man, life-changing. So Dave Ramsey has actually a podcast. So if you ever want to listen to him, it's pretty funny to listen to him, because people will call in and ask questions about finances, and he tells you how it is. He's a Christian-based guy, but he has no problem letting you know, like, if you're doing something dumb, you're doing something dumb. So it's just so that would be my top recommendation for sure.
That is awesome, man. I like that. Just like Chris was saying, not a lot of people focus on that. And I personally, I'm considered to be, by Navy standards, a $1 million sailor, right? When you cross that bridge, or I haven't crossed that bridge yet, I'm still on this side, right? But as I peep outside the window, I know nothing. I really don't know anything. And for all the knowledge that I had within the military, me and Chris talk about it all the time. I got, just for the joy of it, I got my life insurance license. I got my health insurance license. I got my, accidental insurance license, and I'm working on other stuff because the people that I was asking guidance from, they, one, either didn't know how to talk to me about it or explain it to me, or two, didn't really care about it, right? Mm-hmm. And for someone that has been a command financial specialist, and for everybody that's listening, that's someone that teaches every single junior sailor of the military, and or people that get in trouble, how to handle their money. And I thought I knew a lot, right? I am now looking at it and I'm like, now I know I don't know anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. So thank you for sharing that. With that mindset, I want to ask you, since you already talked about your successful transition, we're gonna skip one of the questions, right?
Mhm.
But normally the other question that I'm really passionate about is, what would you tell yourself before you even join the military, as you're having that thought of joining the military? What advice would you give your young self, whether it was 17, 16, 15, or 18-year-old self? What advice would you give yourself to be able to continue this path?
Oh man, I definitely would have told myself first and foremost, party less. Uh, I definitely lived the sailor's life in the beginning of my career, and my one regret was not investing. I wish I would have learned more about money, and I had the people around me. When I came in, it was right around the time they created the thrift savings plan, and I wish I would have really learned more about that. I would tell my 18-year-old self, like, hey, dummy, invest in that, or hey, buy a property wherever every command that you get stationed at, buy a property and rent it out. Utilize the VA loan. Such a freaking incredible tool that I didn't even learn about until I was a chief. Like, I didn't even know how to use it until I became a chief. And that was something that was so frustrating for me, because I'm on home number 3 now, but I imagine that I could have been at home like 5 or 6,
25.
8, 9, 10 houses, in if I would have just stopped worrying about partying so much, and I had other responsibilities. I became a dad at a really young age. I was 17 when I became a dad, and I had my priorities set there, and then when I wasn't there, I was doing dumb stuff. And then if I wasn't doing dumb stuff, I was working in the Navy. So it was just that's what I let that occupy my time, and I wish I would have spent a lot less time doing dumb stuff and really focusing on creating generational wealth, because I grew up dirt poor, man. And the one thing that I always said was that I wanted to be the person that broke the cycle for my family, and I'm well on the path to that now, and I'm grateful for that. But I wish I would have known that path a lot sooner. So that would be what I would tell my 18-year-old self.
Brother, it's like I'm meeting the other me on the other side of the states right now, man. You just said a lot of things that I really agree with. Creating generational wealth, being the one that breaks the chain. I'm all about that, brother. And thanks for sharing that. How can I or others get a hold of you?
So there's a few ways. Our website, which is simple, it's www.sailormade.com. And that's how I got that domain is a long story in itself. I won't get into it, but it was well worth the pain that I went through to get that website. I actually own, so one real quick thing for anybody that wants to own a business, own every version spelling of your name as a domain. Domains are cheap. They, for the most part, sailormade.com wasn't cheap, but the other ones around it are, you can get a domain for about 15 to 20 bucks a year. And I actually own about 20 different variations of SailorMade, either customs, creations, .net, .us, any way that someone could try to capitalize off the SailorMade name. I've already taken it and made it a website that or I've taken the domain and funneled them all to my main website. So if you go to SailorMade, if you typed in SailorMade Custom Woodworks.com, it brings you to SailorMade.com. SailorMade CWW brings you to SailorMade.com. SailorMade.net brings you to SailorMade.com. So I own a bunch of different variations of that. And that was one of those things that I learned, especially as we began growing in popularity. Because we have on Facebook, you can find us at SailorMade CWW, and on Instagram, same thing, SailorMade CWW, also on TikTok, and we're building a YouTube channel now. So the one thing I learned as our popularity grew, especially because the demographic that buys our kind of stuff is the Facebook era. And so we have about we're over 16,000 followers now on Facebook. And but with that came people trying to use our name to forward their business. So you had these people that were like Sailor Made Custom this, Sailor Made Custom that. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. So I bought all those different variations to make sure that, we protect our name and keep the quality. Because I had an instance where there was some second class that was using the Sailor Made name for his woodworking business and trying to pass off some of his stuff as our stuff. And I had to nip that in the bud real quick. So, but that's the quickest way to find us is through that website. You can request a quote on there. There's phone numbers to reach us at on the website as well. I'm one of those people that I'll always be reachable. I'll even put my phone number on here if you want it. 805-587-1197. That's the direct number to my cell phone. I'm always available. My phone's always on. If I don't answer, it's because I'm either asleep or I'm helping somebody else out, but I will get back to you. I pride myself on our customer service and being able to help others. So that's how you can get a hold of me.
So we thank you. We thank your transparency, and we thank you for being able to care, right? I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as we are in the military, we have the E7s, and then we have the actual people that actually joined the mess and became chiefs, right? And one of the hardest part of that transition is being able to let the junior sailors understand that part. That it's never been about making rank. It's never been about whose title is what. It's about taking care of those in front of you and those behind you. You're no longer in the military. You're no longer getting paid to do anything of what you're doing, right? I mean, obviously your shadow boxes, but that's different stuff, right? But you giving your time and you putting yourself out there so transparently to say, hey, I'm here to help you, that it doesn't happen often. And I want to say this because I'm very proud of this, right? Back in 2015, I thought I was never going to make chief, right? I put it on once I relinquished any of those thoughts or ideations, right? 2018, I made chief. And then after that, it was the whole illusion that I was just chasing the next rank. Yeah. Never cared about it. I was fully satisfied as retiring as a first class. Yeah. Right? I made chief. Absolutely loved it. I love the transition, but it's always been about taking care about the people that are around me, next to me, and that I can reach. And you are embodying that. And I fully, from the bottom of my heart, I tell you this, I appreciate that. Thank you for being that person, man.
I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Hey, like Yogi said, I appreciate you coming on here, man. You had some philosophies in here that I really hope that people listening really capture and listen to, from being a ATCS, which is a aviation electronics technician. It's not an AZ, bro, I don't care. No. From being a senior chief, 21 years, to starting a business, taking that leap and finding your passion, and not only just being successful, but also really digging into your faith, leaning on your family, and leaning into your partnership with your partner to create Sailor Made. You've done a lot of amazing things throughout your time on this planet. So I do appreciate you coming on here and sharing these little nuggets of wisdom. I would like to also extend this to you to become a group expert within our community, as far as if I need to find a shadow box or even hear something about VSO stuff. So we're going to add you to our Facebook group, and that's okay. Roots Mill to Vet as a group expert. We don't just add anybody as group experts. We add people that are actually doing something within the community to deserve those kind of titles. So we're going to add you on there because of all the stuff you do.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Honored. Thank you.
All right, for everyone else, your transition and reintegration is in your hands. Only you care about it. So take charge of your all rainbows and unicorns. Return to Roots out. Do us a solid, share this content with everyone you know, regardless if they're associated with the military or not. This content will help someone you know, and hopefully will lessen the deadly gap after service. Our goal is to do whatever we can to reduce the number of suicides from 22 to 0 within the community. Give us a 5-star review, follow, like, and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more content from our guests. These are our personal experiences, and we do not represent the views of the United States Navy and or the Department of Defense. Your transition is ultimately up to you. Please do your research and ask questions. Use Master Chief Google or ask a friend and network within the community that you belong to. Return to Roots out.